Okay, I'm going to start over. I couldn't find the video I just did, and so I'm going to do another one. But I'm going to do it a little bit differently this time. We were in the greenhouse last week, you and I, and we planted a lot of seeds. And I want you to see how the greenhouse has grown and all the beautiful green that's here. If I had a color crayon, it would be green. But I would want to have yellow and blue to go with my color crayon because that makes all different parts of green. See, there's chives. There's mountain bluet, the purple flower. It's not edible. More chives to go in salads. This is a crinkly, it's called frizzy or frisee. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a bumpily throat. And right behind that, some really beautiful chard. More frizzy and chard, red chard beyond. And look at here, I have some onions that I planted from last year. And they're coming up and they're doing great. And now look how much bigger the spinach is than it was last week. Isn't it beautiful? And we have, I'm just trying, this is an experiment to see how cabbage that really only takes about 6 weeks to grow, which is the cool part of the year, will grow in the greenhouse. They're very close together. But I can move one later if I want. But somebody's already eating on it. See? Can you see that? Somebody's eating on it. Little birds like to come in here. And here's lettuce. Coming along, bigger than it was last week. And microgreens. And more frizzy. And another different kind of rose bush. And over here, on the other table, is all the little seeds we planted last week. And look, all those little plants are coming up. Those are all different kinds of frizzy and different kinds of lettuces. And over here I have another different kind of lettuce because lettuce really likes to grow in the spring. And here I have different kinds of tomatoes. They're not up yet. And over here I have all different kinds of peppers. And I'm going to water. I have a great little watering can. And I'm very gently going to water these guys. Don't give them too much because they'll drown. After these guys get bigger, they'll get another set of leaves, and then I'll put them into their own individual little tray. It'll look like this, or like this. And then they can be in that for a week or two. Lots of handling, each different seed. Okay, now we're going to walk down here, and I'm going to read to you Harold and the Purple Crayon. And Harold and the Purple Crayon was a book that was written in 1955, and it was written by Crockett Johnson. Harold and the Purple Crayon. See, all the beds are all covered. We planted a cover crop on them and turned it in, and then put the tarps on it so no weeds would grow. And this will get all planted in maybe April, maybe May. Okay, so here's Harold. One evening, after thinking it over for some time, Harold had decided to go for a walk in the moonlight. Can you hear the rain on the roof? See, it's raining outside and I'm in here all nice and warm and bright. There wasn't any moon, and Harold needed a moon for a walk in the moonlight. And he needed something to walk on. He made a long straight path so he wouldn't get lost. And he set off on a walk, taking his big purple crayon with him. But he didn't seem to be getting anywhere on the long straight path. So he left the path for a shortcut across a field, and the moon went with him. The shortcut led right to where Harold thought a forest ought to be. And he didn't want to get lost in the woods. So he made a very small forest with just one tree in it. And it was an apple tree. And the apples would be very tasty, Harold thought, when they got red. And so Harold, he put a frightening dragon in underneath the tree to protect it. And it was a terribly frightening dragon. It even frightened Harold. Look at him. He is very afraid there. Oh, look at his eyes. Yeah. And his hand holding the purple crayon shook. And suddenly he realized what was happening. But by then he was over his head in an ocean. But Harold is pretty darn smart. He came up thinking fast. And in no time he was climbing aboard a boat. Trim little boat. And he set sail. Thank goodness he's got his purple crayon. And the moon sailed along with him. Sorry. The moon sailed along with him. There he is, yep. And after he'd sailed long enough, Harold made land without very much trouble, and he stepped ashore on the beach wondering where he was. Here he is, and he stepped ashore wondering where he was. He must be hungry by now. He's been out traveling for so long. And it reminded him of picnics. And he thought of the picnics. They did make him hungry. And he laid out a nice, simple picnic lunch. But there was only one thing. Nothing but pie. But luckily, all of his 9 kinds of pie that were his favorites were there. When he finished his picnic, there was quite a lot left. And he hated to see so much delicious pie go to waste. And so who's he drawing now? Is it a horse? A camel? He left a very hungry moose and a deserving porcupine. And off he went looking for a hill. He wanted to climb a hill to see where he was. Harold knew that the higher up he went, the farther he could see, and so he decided to make the hill into a mountain. And if he went high enough, he thought he could see the window of his bedroom. He was tired and he felt he ought to be going to bed. And he hoped he could see his bedroom window from the very top of the mountain. But luckily he kept his wits and his purple crayon. Oh, what happened? Wait, I missed something. But as he looked down over the other side, he slipped. Ah! And there wasn't any other side of the mountain. He was falling into thin air. But luckily, he kept his wits and his purple crayon. There he is. He's drawing a circle, a balloon. It made a balloon and he grabbed onto it. And he made a basket under the balloon, big enough to stand in. Oh, he had a fine view from up there, but he couldn't see his window and he couldn't even see a house. Huh. So what happened? So he made a house with windows. And he landed the balloon in the grass in the yard. This book is so little that holding the pages, and holding the phone to film it is all very problematic. But none of the windows was his home, or his window, and he tried to think where his window ought to be. And so he drew a lot more windows. And he drew a big building full of windows. He made lots of buildings full of windows. And he made a whole city full of windows. There he is. But none of the windows was his window. And he couldn't think where it might be. Look at his little eyes. He's kind of worried a little bit, isn't he? Oh, he decided to ask a policeman. And the policeman pointed the way Harold was walking anyway. But Harold thanked him. He's a polite boy. And he walked along with the moon, wishing he was in his room and in bed. And then suddenly, Harold remembered. What did he remember? He remembered where his bedroom window was. When there was a moon, it was always right around the moon. That's where his bedroom window was. And then Harold made his bed, and he got in it, and he drew up the covers. And the purple crayon dropped on the floor, and Harold dropped off to sleep. Now, if I had a crayon for today, mine would be green, like I said earlier. And I would try and do a painting or a coloring drawing of all the plants in the greenhouse. And what about you kids? What color of crayon would you use? And what would your drawing of today be? I miss you. I'll see you soon.